Thank you, Gates. Thank you, Marie. Can you all hear me okay? My notes out here. A little bit of bad news. I only have the first 2 hours of my notes. So the second 2 hours, I'm just going to have to improvise. Again, my name is Claas Ehlers. I am the Director of Affiliate Services for Family Promise. And what some of you may not know is that there's 181 programs around the country, like yours, like Roanoke Valley Interfaith Hospitality Network. And in fact, the 181st is right here in Virginia, in Bristol. They just opened their doors 5 weeks ago, so that is the second affiliate in the Commonwealth of Virginia. There was kind of a debate, would they be Tennessee or Virginia? But there's more host congregations in Virginia. So they're a Virginia affiliate. My role is to work with all of those 181 affiliates, plus about 3 dozen in development at any time. So I do a lot of traveling. I'm really delighted to be here in Roanoke. I get around a lot. People are familiar with the Johnny Cash song, I've Been Everywhere. I have been to Pascagoula, Ponchatoula, Ashtabula, and Pocatello, and many, many other places. Now, Marie may be shuddering because she's heard me sing. I'm not going to sing. You didn't bring me down from New Jersey to torture these people. But I do want to just kind of elaborate a little bit on that, because because if you think about Johnny Cash, you think about the people he sang about and his own life growing up, a lot of his songs are about people who are families, they're struggling, they're dealing with adversity, they're having a hard time in life with a lot of obstacles. All they have is themselves, their families, and their faith to cling to. And the fact of the matter is, that's a good description of the families that we serve here in Roanoke, back in New Jersey, and all across the country. In fact, I've seen families, I'll give you some examples. In Bozeman, Montana, the first family to come into the program in Bozeman, Montana, came in because the house they were renting, the septic system backed up into it. And their issue wasn't whether they could afford the rent at a new house, because they could. Dad was working, but they couldn't afford the first and last month's rent and the security deposit. And that's what made them homeless. Or a dad in Odessa, Texas, who has custody of his kids, works as a truck driver, so now he's got to have a job that keeps him around because he's got teenage kids. But pretty soon the money runs out, but he has no options because there was no place in Odessa, Texas where a dad could shelter with his kids. He'd have to give his kids up for foster care. Or a mom living in Florida who had 2 daughters, and the younger daughter had a serious medical condition. So she moved to Gainesville, which is a university town, has a great medical system. But you know what else university towns have? Really expensive rent. And she was faced with that idea. What are you going to do? Sacrifice your child's health or be homeless? And fortunately for all those families and so many more, there were affiliates there locally that could help them. Just like you all have helped so many families here. The other side of it is Johnny Cash was also a gospel singer, right? Released scores of gospel songs. Because as much as family homelessness is everywhere, so are people of faith. There's over 5,000 congregations around this country, congregations like yours, that are involved in this program, because everywhere people of faith believe that you are your brothers and sisters' keeper. And the solution for family homelessness can be found right here in our own faith communities. One thing I have found, and this is true, you know, we have such a diverse range of congregations. There's Lutheran churches in Minnesota, there's synagogues in Honolulu, there's Churches of God in Lawrenceville. There isn't a single faith tradition that isn't some way or other involved in this country. And for the Christians in the room, I think you'll agree with me, I've never stepped into a church where Matthew 25 didn't read the same. Right now, as we are gathered here in 181 communities around the country, including here in Roanoke, who's the host church for this upcoming week? Okay, all right. Right now, people are getting their Sunday school classrooms ready to be the temporary home for families, getting the fellowship hall ready for meals and play and homework. Volunteers are busy cooking meals. All this great stuff is happening. That means there's about 2,000 people members of families in this country who are in this program, who had been homeless, who are now on a pathway to self-sufficiency. And if you think about it, that's about 1,200 children. And about 600 of those children are under the age of 5. And I'm going to talk a little more about numbers in a moment, but I want to step back and I want to share a personal story. As Gates told you, my church, St. Stephen's Episcopal Church, is a host congregation. It's been a host congregation since 1987. I don't think when we started, we thought we'd be doing this for 25 years. I think maybe we thought homelessness would somehow end, but unfortunately it hasn't. When my family volunteers, we typically volunteer on a Friday night, because I've got 3 kids. I have an 18-year-old, a 15-year-old, and a 13-year-old. I'll take your sympathy. And Friday nights are good because Saturday morning you don't have to hustle to get ready for school. So we'll typically host on a Friday night. A couple of years ago, we hosted on a Friday night, and all of the children in the program at that time were under the age of 5. It was all young families. You know how it is. I mean, one time you're hosting it's young kids, the next time it's a bunch of teenagers. This time it was all little kids. And one of the moms in the program had 2 daughters. One girl was a little over 2. The other one, named Janiyah, was exactly 1 year old. Her birthday was that Friday. So of course, if it's a 1-year-old's birthday, what do? You have ice cream, you have cake, you have all kinds of fun. And so we're there Friday night, and it's Janiyah's birthday, and there's all these little kids running around, and my kids are running around after them and playing with them and everything, and having a great time. A little while later, Janiyah toddles over to me and goes like this. Which is the universal symbol for, take me out. So I pick her up and I'm walking around the fellowship hall with her, and I don't really understand the physiology of this, but she gains about 15 pounds as she falls asleep. But anyway, sure enough, she falls asleep in my arms, so her mom and I walk upstairs to the Sunday school classroom where they are staying. I lay her down in her crib, and then I leave and I walk back downstairs, and I'm thinking to myself, you know, here's a child who was homeless on her first birthday. But it's not what we think of as homeless, because she has security, she has safety, she has hope, she has a community, she has scores of grandparents and aunts and uncles and cousins in this community to help her. And I firmly believe what children need more than anything else to thrive is that larger community around them. And sure enough, within a few weeks, Mom got a job. She got an apartment in Irvington. They got appropriate childcare for the girls. And I think about this. Her life, Janiyah's life and her sister's life and the lives of the other kids in the program at that point, were all at a juncture. If she did not end up in this program, she would have gone this way. They've been bouncing around, staying at different friends' houses. Maybe the kids would end up in foster care, might have health issues. And I think it's pretty safe to say that her future was pretty limited if she had gone that way. But instead, she came into the program, into the Interfaith Hospitality Network in Essex County, New Jersey, and her future went this way. She had stability, she had security, she had the community around her to give her the opportunities that she deserves. So in that way, this program is about changing the future for children. But I want to take it 2 days more, because the next Sunday, that following Sunday, one of the families decided to stay at church for services. And they had a little 4-year-old girl, and this 4-year-old girl took a real shine to my daughter. So she was at church school, and then after church school she stayed in the fellowship hall, and we're all leaving the sanctuary going into the fellowship hall. Now my church, we have about 80 active members, so it's not a big church. Not that many kids. She didn't remember my daughter's name, but she remembered that my daughter was tall, was the tallest girl she'd met. So we're walking through the doors into the fellowship hall, and she spots my daughter, and she says on top of her lungs, "It's Tall Girl!" And runs over and gives her this big hug around her knees. And as much as this program is about changing the future for that 4-year-old and Janiyah and all the kids that we have seen come through our doors, it is just as much about changing the future for girls and boys like my daughter, my daughter's son and daughter, and all the children in our congregations, because their lives are at the same juncture. Right? Are they going to believe that they deserve everything they have and they have no obligation? Or are they going to understand that if you have been blessed by God, you are called by God to share those blessings? And to me, that is the heart of this program. Going back to the numbers, I want to repeat some of the numbers that Marie shared and then give you some additional numbers. So 363, that is the number of families you have served since you opened your doors 15 years ago. So a lot of futures changed. 656 is the number of children you have served since you opened your doors. That's the size of a large school district. 1,229 is the number of people you've served overall. That's 4 times the size of my hometown in upstate New York. Here's some other numbers. 48,392. That was the number of people, children and adults, served by Family Promise Affiliate programs in 2011. That's the size of a county. 150,000 is the average number of volunteers involved in some way over the course of a year. It's the size of a city. And 450,000 is, by the end of this year, approximately how many people have been served by this program since it's opened its doors in Christchurch, in Summit, New Jersey in 1986. 450,000, that's a city that can host a Major League ball team. So, as much as this is a ministry, an outreach, a program, it's much more than that. It is a movement. And you all are very much part of a movement that changes the future for children. We changed our name to Family Promise a little less than 10 years ago. We used to be National Interfaith Hospitality Network. But we changed our name because we wanted to have a name that wasn't what we did, but was who we were. And the name Family Promise has 2 meanings. I think the first one is usually pretty obvious to people. As people of faith, we have a promise that we make to families in our community who are struggling. But the other meaning is just as powerful. The families that we serve have tremendous promise. They have tremendous potential. We've all seen former guests that have gone on, get jobs and get housing, go to college, become coordinators, become board members, become staff, lead advocacy efforts, start their own businesses. I was in Philadelphia a couple weeks ago talking to the director there, and she said, you know, one of my former guests came by this summer because she was on break